James, where the Cincinnati Bengals Super Bowl starts, I'd say, is the quarterback matchup. And I know that people want to talk about the Bengals offensive line and Aaron Donald and Von Miller and Leonard Floyd and Jalen Ramsey and Jamar Chase. But those things, despite how much attention we've given those sorts of matchups in this playoff run for the Bengals, have been secondary to the quarterback matchup. And in some ways it's surprising and in other ways it's not. In general, we've talked all year, it's a quarterback matchup. Whichever quarterback plays better wins the game. And a lot of times these other matchups impact which quarterback plays better and will win the game. But that hasn't really been the case. I mean, it has to some extent, right? Like Joe Burrow got pretty bottled up in the passing offense, got pretty bottled up by Tennessee and those 9 sacks and the kind of defense that the Titans were playing.
Mhm.
But Burrow found a way, and the defense found a way. And so it's obviously a team game. But when I look at Matthew Stafford, here's a guy who I guess that's a Collinsworth saying. We're hitting all the old school Bengals together. Here's a guy who has had one, two, three, four, 5 games this year where he has not thrown a turnover worthy pass, according to Pro Football Focus. In his last, what is this, 7 games, he's got at least one, including one each in each of his playoff games. In week 16 against Minnesota, threw 4 turnover worthy passes. I was talking to Locked On Vikings host Luke Braun about that game a little bit, and he's like, "Hey, watch out for this concept." And it was like a drift concept. I'm going to get into. There's 2 games I'm watching on my flight down to LA, James. It's going to be the Rams at Vikings from Week 16, and I'm going to watch Rams Buccaneers. That's going to be my film prep on the plane. Uh, to see what I'm really interested in what the Rams are doing offensively. And but what Luke told me is Minnesota runs the same coverages that the Bengals do. He thinks so. I'm gonna be looking at what the Rams or what the Vikings did defensively to get Matt Stafford to throw 4 turnover worthy throws, and that's not the first time he's done it this year. He also did it in Week 10 against San Francisco. So much like Tannehill, my mindset around Stafford is there's obviously like higher upside with Stafford than Tannehill, but the thing they have in common is they're going to put the ball in danger. Odds are they're going to put the ball in danger. There will be opportunities again for this Bengals defense to make a clutch interception.
Yeah, and they certainly have to. I mean, it's been such a theme, winning the turnover battle. And when you look at their path to victory, I get it. I said what 41-38 last week, and you've certainly pointed it out, and it's true. I tend to look at the higher scoring end of things when I make my predictions. I don't feel that way this week. I think it's the other way. I think the Bengals' path to winning is the I feel like the Bengals' path to winning, excuse me, is the opposite, is that Tennessee blueprint. And, it's one of those things where they're going to have to win the turnover battle. And this defense is going to have to continue to do what it's done really all season long for most of the season, but certainly throughout the playoffs. I mean, they've just been great. You hold the Raiders to under 20. You hold the Titans to under 20 on the road, and then you do what you did against the Chiefs, specifically in the second half, but really the end of the first half uh, just propels you to that awesome second half and the 4 sacks and everything like that. And I think they can. Like if they pressure Stafford, and that's part of the key, right? If you're going to force turnovers, get some heat on Matt Stafford. Call me crazy. I think they're going to be able to do that. I think they're going to be able to get some heat on him. And with this secondary, the way they're playing, with the way Lou Anarumo's dialing up certain things, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility at all. You look up, and they've been able to keep Cooper Cup at bay. You're not going to stop him, and we can dive more into that, but also force a couple of turnovers.
Yeah, that's the big thing is what we've called Lou Anarumo Ludini, we've called him the mad scientist, and that came from Von Bell. I figured out where it came from. Von Bell called him a scientist a couple weeks ago in January. This week, in one of his press conferences, he called Lou a mad scientist. So I don't know if we innovated the mad in front of the scientist, or if I just stole that from Von Bell. But either way, Lou Anarumo is going to have to get in his bag again and figure out what approach is going to work this week, because that's been the key to the Bengals' defensive success is Lou Anarumo being flexible and not being like, we gave Wink Martindale a hard time for being stubborn and for doing his thing and to his own detriment, right? And Lou Anarumo has been so adaptable, and that's been, in my opinion, just so important. And
Mhm.
getting back to the quarterback battle, on the other side we have Joe Burrow, and in the clutch moments, Joe Burrow has stepped up. I know he threw the late pick against the Chiefs, and that could have been costly, but it wasn't. And the thing about Burrow is that in these big moments, he lives for them. He's talked about how he lives for them, and he steps up and makes the plays. And does he have a harder job this weekend? Next weekend in the Super Bowl? Maybe. Dealing with Aaron Donald. He's been dealing with guys for the last 3 weeks. I mean, it's been the same thing every week, right? We've heard Max Crosby is going to ruin the game. We've heard Jeffrey Simmons and this Titans pass rush is going to ruin the game. We've heard uh, uh, Chris Jones and Melvin Ingram are going to ruin the game, and Honey Badger's back, so the Chiefs get to play their defense, and those guys have certainly made impacts on the game. But Joe Burrow has risen to the occasion to overcome those impacts. And meanwhile, we have 34-year-old Matt Stafford. Happy birthday, Matt Stafford. Turns 34 on Monday, by the way. Uh, who has endured Detroit and has this meaningless stat. He's 0-3 against the Bengals, James. I don't know if you saw my tweet about this. 0-3 against the Bengals, completing just over 50% of his career passes against the Bengals. This would have been the year for the Bengals to play the NFC North, but instead Stafford went west and they get to play him in the Super Bowl instead. And so Matt Stafford looking for his first win against the Bengals against this guy that just comes up time and time again in big games. And so when I'm looking at the quarterback matchup, I'm thinking about these guys, and Joe Burrow versus Stafford is the headliner of this game. And I just think that, again, doubt Joe Burrow at your own peril at this point, right? We've seen him overcome time and time again.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that there's, something to that. And if you had to bank or bet on who's going to have more turnover plays or who's going to come up short, it would probably be Stafford. At the same time, and you guys are going to hear me say this a lot this week, the Rams were built for this. This is why they traded for Matt Stafford. This is why they traded for Von Miller. This is why they went after OBJ and were able to sign him when he was a free agent. They did all of those moves, and there are more. They traded for Jalen Ramsey a couple of years ago. Like, this is it. Like, they are very short window minded, and so I think that's going to be hard. You're facing a team, facing a quarterback like Matt Stafford, who's been told that he can't come up big his entire career. And yet, this isn't Andy Dalton, right? He has the physical tools to be as good as any quarterback, right? He's got the arm, and it hasn't worked. And so it is dangerous. At the same time, if he threw a jump ball or what a lollipop is what I'll call it in the NFC title game. I can't get over that. I can't get that out of my head. The pop fly he throws in the fourth quarter that should have been picked, and the 49ers probably should have intercepted it and gotten a field goal range and won the game. And instead the Rams go down and kick the game winning field goal. So he's going to give you opportunities. And so that part of it, I understand. And I also understand the argument. There's a lot of Bengals fans saying he didn't elevate Detroit. Well, Joe Burrow certainly elevated the Bengals, at least to a degree, and that's it's going to be a factor in these big moments. But as it happens every single week, Jake, can they slow down this crazy front for the Rams? And it seems like the Bengals have faced every great pass rusher there is in the NFL. They haven't this season. They haven't faced Aaron Donald yet. They will on Sunday, and we'll talk about that next.